Hello everyone. My name is Xiaohong Yang. I'm in the group 3. We're gonna talk about the LSD abuse today. First, we're gonna talk about the addiction. Actually, LSD is not considered physically addictive because it does not cause craving and withdrawal systems like many other substances. Such as the opioid or stimulant. However, it can be psychologically habit-forming for some users who develop a strong desire to repeat the experience. But it can build tolerance quickly, meaning repeated use over a few days leads to a reduced effect. Users typically need to wait several days between doses for it to be effective again. But it still has the risk. While the risk of addiction is low, frequent users may experience persistent psychological effects such as anxiety or hallucinogen persistent perception disorder, HPPD, a form of flashback. Second, we should talk about how it works on the brain. LSD works primarily by interacting with serotonin 5-HT receptors in the brain. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter that regulates mood, perception, sleep, and cognition. LSD also affects other brain systems, including dopamine pathway, but serotonin is the primary target. LSD mimics serotonin binding to receptors and disrupting normal communication between brain cells. This causes altered serotonin perception, mood changes, and disordered sense of time and self. On the right side, there are a picture to describe how the LSD works on the brain.
Hello, I'm Jonathan. And for the LSD abuse, for the street costs and the common names, there are for the street costs, it's per tab / bottle, like one dose is like $5 to $15. And then for per 10 strip, like 10 tabs, it's around like $40 to $100. It's around there, give or take. And then for the liquid per milliliter or per drop, it's like $100 or $300. It's around there, give or take, depending on the potency, how strong it is. And then the common names for the LSD is gonna be like acid, blotter, and then like blotter acid, blue cheer, electric Kool-Aid, like hits. That's like the street common names for the LSD. I'm not sure why, but yeah, that's what it is. And then that's for like the street. That's for yeah.
For the history of the drug, LSD was synthesized the first day synthesized in 1938. It is while studying ergo fungus, and then in 1943, Hoffman accidentally discovered LSD's psychoactive effect after absorbing it through his skin, later testing it internationally. 1950s to the 1960s, LSD was used in psychiatric research for addiction, anxiety, and PTSD. 1960s became popular in the counterculture and was prompted by figures like Timothy Leither, leading to widespread recreational use. In 1970s, LSD was declared a Schedule I drug in the U.S., making it illegal due to concerns over misuse and lack of acceptable medical use. Today, there is a renewed interest in psychedelic-assisted therapy, with clinical trial investigating LSD potential in mental health treatment. At the conclusion, while LSD is not physically addictive, its psychological effect and potential risk of abuse highlight the need for education and caution. Understanding its mechanism, history, street use, and modern research allowed for informed discussion about its risk and potential in therapy. And the last one is our reference. That's all of our LSD abuse. Thank you.
Altering your perception and creating hallucinations. LSD, also known as acid, is a psychedelic drug famous for altering your perception and creating hallucinations. But how does it actually work, and what is the effect on your body and, more importantly, your brain? Lysergic acid diethylamide was first synthesized in 1938 from a fungus that grew on rye. In 1943, the inventor Albert Hofmann accidentally touched some to his mouth, got high, and became the first person in the world to learn about the psychedelic properties of LSD. Research on the drug took place in the 50s and 60s, but as recreational use began to spread, psychedelic drugs were made an illegal Schedule I drug in the US, and the research programs were halted. While other drugs are dosed in grams, a single dose of LSD is measured in 1/100,000th of a gram, which is 1/10 the mass of a grain of sand. LSD affects multiple brain receptors such as the dopamine receptors, adrenergic receptors, and glutamate receptors, but most research is on the stimulatory serotonin receptor 5-HT2A. LSD hits the receptor at an unexpected angle, causing it to fold over the LSD, creating a lid. The LSD is then trapped, which makes this receptor continually fire, causing you to hallucinate. Your body responds by sucking the 5-HT2A receptor into the cell in order to degrade the LSD, but this can take up to 12+ hours to happen, which is why the high can last so long. Recently, LSD research has seen a revival, and using contemporary neuroimaging techniques, researchers found that the drug causes parts of your brain to communicate in unique ways, especially in the visual cortex, potentially explaining the vivid and complex hallucinations. There's also decreased blood flow in the default mode network, correlating to strong changes in consciousness characterized as ego dissolution, described as a feeling where the boundary that separates you from the rest of the world dissolves. Many people report this feeling brings a sense of reconnection with themselves, others, and the natural world. In fact, a study on 20 healthy volunteers receiving 75 micrograms of LSD saw that 2 weeks after being dosed, they scored higher for the traits of optimism and openness, with increased creativity and imagination. This has led researchers to think about LSD as a therapy for patients with death anxiety and life-threatening illnesses. Researchers found that 12 months after treatment, patients reported a reduction in anxiety and a rise in quality of life as the drug helped them restructure their habits and worldview. It is also why the trend of microdosing is emerging, where a person takes 1/10 of a recreational dose of LSD, attempting to skip the hallucinations and instead experience heightened alertness, energy, and creativity. Although LSD is non-addictive and researchers rate it as significantly less dangerous than other drugs like cocaine and heroin, there's still an extreme lack of scientific studies to explain the widespread microdosing trend, and even experienced hallucinogen users will sometimes experience bad trips, producing irrational fears, paranoia, and panic attacks. LSD can also cause flashbacks, where months after the drug is worn off, it can feel as though you're experiencing the effects of the high all over again. In some extreme occasions, people have developed hallucinogen persisting perception disorder, which is like a never-ending trip. Thinking that LSD can lead to psychosis and the risk of suicide are overstated. The 14% of participants in the US National Survey who had done psychedelics in their life had no increased risk of developing psychosis, depression, or suicide attempts. But the new research around LSD's potential positive effects is also very young, so this might not be a trip you want